All right, we are live. Hello, everyone. It is James, the captain, and Tennille. I am also known as the Ascension Coach. Look at does she have an amazing smile? I am known as the Ascension Coach. I help people connect with higher states of consciousness, align with their higher selves, and discover their soul's purpose so they can live a life of joy, abundance, fulfillment, all the good stuff that we desire to experience. So, though less attractive, I'm going to turn it over to the amazing Tennille.
Hi, I'm Tennille. I'm a trauma-informed holistic wellness coach and co-founder of Moon Meditation. And yeah, essentially, we focus on helping people get back in touch with themselves.
I love it. I love it. So, Tennille and I, as we were preparing to even kind of embark on this journey of going beyond and bringing you along with us, I think one of the big things that we talked about as far as what are people dealing with was having level of success, having achieved certain goals that you may have set for yourself, but still finding unfulfillment, like the belief that the next thing will bring me that fulfillment. That doesn't do it. So now we're on to the next thing and then the next thing. And so it just ends up being this elusive experience that is not found in what we thought we would find it in. It's not found in things. It's not found in people. It's not found in the places that we may visit. And so we want to talk about how to find fulfillment in the midst of unfulfilling success. So, Tennille, as it relates to what you've seen, what you've heard, um, define for me unfulfilling success. What are your clients and the people you're connected to saying to you about not being fulfilled?
For the most part, it's not really feeling like they have a purpose in what they're doing. In that, well, they're not making a difference in what they're doing. Or they quite frankly don't seem to like what they're doing. Like they may make a lot of money, but they feel like they're either working too much or they're constantly stressed out. They don't actually get to enjoy their lives. So it begins to feel like what's the point, so to speak. And I guess that's what it comes down to. And with a lot of people, often you'll find it's because they kind of followed a preset guideline on what life is supposed to, or what path you're supposed to take to have the successful life. And so they take this path almost on autopilot. And very rarely are they actually doing the things they're doing because they want to for themselves, right? They're doing it with this expectation that the next goal or the next checkbox that they check is going to be the one that makes them feel fulfilled, which is often not the case.
Yeah. You know what? As you said, how much do you think society is an influence on that? Meaning, this is what you have to have or do or be to be defined as successful.
Oh,
And so,
as you said, society plays a huge role in this, right? Because all around us is an influence on that. Meaning, look at this. This is what you have to have or do or be. See, I like to hear your voice playing on the side as well.
it's yeah, I just have that effect with women. But next week you will be replaced by AI. Just FYI. But go ahead. Oh, where's
there we go. Okay. I'm literally trying to stop this, but it's not refusing to stop. Anyway, sorry. Technical issues. But yeah, society plays a huge role, right? It tells us who we're supposed to be, what success looks like in life, what we need to have. And that's a big one. Have. There's always these things that we need to have that will determine that we're successful. For sure, it's, and social media, people always talk about, social media is a huge influence in this and that. It has its positive aspects, but one of the most, I guess, misleading things about it is people are just giving their highlights in social media. They're showing that right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that is by no means an indication of all of life, all right?
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
even the highlights, sometimes it's just completely made up. But
Yeah.
that's, that, and that's what has people think that we have to be these things, we have to have these things, we have to live this way, in order for us to be successful or deemed a success.
Yeah. 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 That came up while you were talking. And that's very much the case. Like it's almost that keeping up with the Joneses, appearing to have all the bells and whistles that come with what we define as a successful life. So all having all the external means, but neglecting ourself, neglecting our soul.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where that piece of finding fulfillment is in, right? Because we think this is going to make us
Yes.
feel good. In other words, we're working from the outside in instead of from the inside out. And even that fictional $1 million that everybody wants to be a millionaire. Well, do you really need? Who knows if you're going to need $1 million? You may not, but it's what everybody is saying, and so that is what everybody says. I want to. Maybe you need 5 million. Maybe you just need 500,000. But this is the standard that I didn't get any say in. No one came to me and go, "Hey, what do you feel about the $1 million being the standard?"
Mhm.
I'd have been like, I'd probably been like, okay, but we subscribe to other people's standard of success. We subscribe to other people's standard of what it means to be fulfilled. And so I remember writing this in my book, my relationship book. There was my sister told me about a friend of hers who is in this marriage, and she's in this marriage because the person has all the bells and whistles, da da da, but she doesn't feel like she's like he doesn't know her. This is her words.
Yeah.
He doesn't know her because she just played the part so that
Yep.
she could have this what deemed to be or what's deemed to be a successful marriage. But
Yep.
she's empty because that's not who she is. So yeah, like, and that's the way you said that makes me believe you've seen that as well. That people are in these spaces that it's almost like I think it comes from Sesame Street. It's almost like one of these kids are doing their own thing, but one of these kids is not like the
I
other.
like the other, right? But it's but that's the thing, is that it's funny, that you mentioned that within relationships. This one's really interesting because often people don't even recognize the value of the relationship that they're in because they're so busy comparing it to a relationship that they're not in, right?
Mm,
And
yeah,
that can lead to a sense of unfulfillment too, because you're sitting back again on social media or movies and you see, um let's just say, the spouse is doing all these big romantic gestures, and that's how they prove that they love them. And your spouse is not that kind of person. Your spouse doesn't buy
yeah,
flowers every day, but your spouse is always fixing things around the house. But that's not the same thing, right? Because they don't really
yeah,
care about me, but your spouse is remembering that you forgot to pick up, toilet paper today, and they're at the store and they pick up toilet paper and make sure that she's in, so you don't have to run out and get it. But you know
right.
that's not love, right? So some of that unfulfillment is literally because you're not actually enjoying the life that you have. You're
Yes.
wanting a life that you don't have, and that
Ooh, that's good.
you unfulfilled.
That's good. Because you know what? I don't know if you've seen this, but on social media there was this thing of all the places that a man may take a woman to for a first date. I think it was like, did you see that?
I think that's one
Right?
of the, like, no Cheesecake Factory.
Yes, there you go. Cheesecake Factory. I'm trying to think of the actual place. Yeah. But and so you got this one crowd who's looking down on it.
Yeah.
But it makes me think how many people were like, I've been okay with the Cheesecake
I
Factory,
love
or
Cheesecake Factory. What do you mean?
yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Or I'd be okay with somebody's that being their gesture, that being their because I think that another one was if they took you to get ice cream or something. You know what? Somebody may really enjoy that. Somebody may look at that as a very intimate, even though they're getting to know each other, a very intimate thing that, oh, we're taking a walk while having ice cream. Somebody probably got married having started with that experience, but you do feel the pressure, I imagine, of the people that go, yeah, girl, I never deal with that. Like that, don't bring that mess this way.
It's actually absolutely amazing because it's both sides of the story in the relational aspect will do that. For example, I know there was one other thing that I'd seen where this guy first date brought flowers, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And his date was like, I don't like flowers, right? And then
yeah,
he got
yeah,
so, oh, women are so unappreciative. Da, 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 da. You know, a person can't even do a
yeah,
nice gesture like buying flowers. But it's like, yeah, but buying flowers is only a nice gesture if the person likes flowers.
yes,
You know what I
yes,
mean? It's
yes,
like, get to know the person. And that's the thing is that we also, that's another common thing that we do is we go through these preset schemas of, what it
right,
is to be a good person, what it is to be a good spouse, what it is to be a good, I don't know, employee, whatever the case may be, with check boxes,
yeah,
check boxes, but no intentionality behind our actions, right?
mm,
We're doing them because we think this is what's going to result in, the thing
yeah,
that we want. And then often when it doesn't, because within the workplace, and I had a client that complained about this, right?
mm,
She tends to be someone that takes things upon herself, right? And so, I guess there was a group project and she ended up doing most of the work. But again, she felt like she had to do most of the work. And the
mhm,
project was a success. But when it came time for recognition, she wasn't like given individual recognition for her efforts, right? So
yeah,
then she
yeah,
felt very dissatisfied, right? And I found that quite interesting because this is what often happens. But it's like,
yeah,
you did take on these yourself. There must have been some satisfaction there. Were you doing it because you were expecting recognition, or were you really doing it because
mm,
you wanted to help your team, right? And you will
yeah,
feel unfulfilled if the reason you were doing it was so you could receive recognition, as opposed to because it was the right thing to do in the situation, for the sake of the team, for the sake of the project, whatever that may be, right? So when we're
yeah,
doing, and this comes down to, it's like that reward versus punishment discipline in childhood, right?
yeah,
A lot
yeah,
of people do things to avoid punishment when they were raised in a way that they got punishment, but they don't know why the thing they're doing is good or not. And when the punishment is no longer there, then there's no longer motivation to continue to be good in that way. And the same thing
yeah,
with reward. Some people are used to doing good things, so they get rewarded. And when you get into adult life, well, you're not going to get a reward for every good thing you do.
no, no,
So suddenly you feel as if you're not being fulfilled or you're not being appreciated, because you've got this idea of what it looks like and you're not getting it. Doesn't mean it's not happening.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I don't want to mess this person's name up, but he says hello, so I'm saying hello back to you. Appreciate you joining, Tennille, and you know what, Tennille, when you say that, it takes me to worth and esteem, and even to some degree, deep insecurity that I need this to look this way so that I can feel safe, or so that I can, it's obvious it's not leading to self-esteem. It's not leading to self-worth. It's just exacerbating it to some degree. But at least I look like I'm someone who's worthy, or I look like someone who's to be esteemed, or I look like I'm safe, or I'm in a safe environment, or not so much that I'm in a safe environment, but this environment makes me feel safe instead of finding it within myself,
In yourself.
which is really what this is all about, right? So, how do we find fulfillment? I imagine first by addressing those kind of things, right?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it really comes down to it is we need to get back to ourselves to recognize that
Yeah,
we are worthy just because, right? Just
just
because we
because,
are,
just because.
we
Yeah,
don't have to be the best at anything to be worthy, right?
yeah,
Because a lot of people go through life and it puts so much pressure. I mean, I've witnessed this one, like personally, right? Where they used to
hmm,
person that has their value either via their intelligence or via their accomplishments, right? And the thing about it, or even via their financial status, we'll say, right? So
Mhm.
they reinforce that worth by being generous and helping lots of people, which is a wonderful thing to do, right? But the
Yeah.
problem
Yeah.
is that there's this underlying pressure for them to continue to do that. So if anything
Mm.
comes along, if anything happens that threatens their financial stability, it's like suddenly, who am I? Am I still worthy? Can I still be loved if I cannot financially provide? Right.
Yeah.
And that one's a lot of pressure. So you find that then people will push themselves to continue to get more and more and more and more, because they're fighting this fear that without this, I am not worthy. Without this, I am not lovable. If I can't give money to people, if I can't do things for people, I won't be loved. Right.
Yeah.
So getting
Yeah.
people back in touch, with realizing that you don't have to be any of these things to be worthy of love. Right. You are worthy of love as you are.
As you are, the very essence of your being, the very you that you talk about getting in touch with is love, right? Like that's your divine essence. This is what came up for me as well when we look at, as you described it, as people showing their highlights, um, or maybe even fictional life that they're living, or this kind of unspoken standard that's out there. Also, letting that be that. In other words, not letting that paint a picture in my reality. That's good for them, great for them. I applaud them. However much truth in it is in it or not, they get to be who they are. Even if they're just know that it's not real. Because sometimes we have clients and we know, okay, we just had a conversation and ain't none of this happening. But but it gets to be okay that they get to tell the story that they want to tell for their life. But it is coming back within ourselves and going, you know what, my story gets to look like how I want it to look.
Exactly.
So it may not be $1 million. It may not even be $100,000. It may not be a relationship with somebody, taking me all over the world or whatever. It may just be somebody that I know is going to come home at night and treat me good and treat the family good. So it is, in essence, creating your own standard. Like when I used to marry couples, um, I used to tell them, you get to define what this looks like. So you may have the wife who enjoys cutting grass.
Mhm.
Have at it.
Yeah.
I know me. I like cleaning up the house. That's how I grew up and went into the army and clean. I like cleaning up the house. That may be my thing. But you get to define what that looks like for you. And even as it kind of expands to business, your business success gets to look like what you want it to look like without feeling the pressure of it has to look like their thing, or this is what the standard is, or this is what this big figure who stood on the stage who has millions of followers said this should look like. No, this should look like how I want it to look like, and it be okay.
Yes.
So
I
yeah.
mean, it's interesting because a lot of this becomes more complicated when it comes to relation. And again, not only romantic. This could be with coworkers. This could be with friends. This could be with everyone, right?
Mhm.
Because often we have an idea of maybe what we want things to look like, but then we
Yeah.
project that idea onto others and have this expectation that they have to. And if they don't meet this idea that we have within our mind, then suddenly they're not, you know, they don't care or whatever. We start to then project these negative things onto them without actually allowing the room to discuss, to find out, right? Or even to
Yeah.
express, because people have a habit of unexpressed needs being projected onto people, and then you get mad at them for not meeting those needs when you haven't ever actually told them what it is that you need or want or expect from within that relationship situation, whatever that may be. And again, this is any type of relationship, because it happens in work too. You have an
Yeah.
expectation that this is what a person is supposed to do, and they're not doing it the way that you expect them to do it. They
Yeah.
may be doing it a particular way, but it's not the way that you expect. And then it upset me. And, you know, it's actually funny enough. I actually have a personal experience of this actually happening in a job, and I ended up losing this job.
Okay.
It was
Is this
hilarious. So
story time?
it's a quick story time. So this is I was working. There was a Whole Foods that had opened up in my neighborhood. Right, and I was really excited because I was going to work like a. It was flexible. It was going to be perfect. Right, great. So because it was a brand new location, they had managers from other locations to come and train the new staff. So I was like one of the first, employees at this location. So I was trained by a particular manager who trained a particular way, and I liked her method, and it worked well for me, right, to get a particular job done in a particular order, and I did it her way. However, my manager had their way of doing it, right?
Yeah.
And so now when the store's actually open and now we're working, so my manager, kept like telling me to do it like her way, and I would question, but this way is quite efficient and it's working for me. Right, and that's the problem with me. Is I've never really been a do what you're told type person. Anyway, so I was like,
I never picked up on that. But go ahead.
I'm like, because ultimately the job is getting done, right? And to me, it's getting done very efficiently. This system that I'm using, that I was taught by this other manager, works well, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing is that I would question, like, why, like I'm still doing it. Why shouldn't I just do it my way? Anyway, I ended up getting fired because I wasn't a team player. And that's that story. It wasn't that I wasn't doing my job. I was getting the job done, and I was getting the job done very efficiently, but I just wasn't doing it the way that the manager wanted me to do it. Right. And so I got fired, and the reason was that I wasn't a team player, and I was shocked because I'm like, what do you mean? Me? I'm amazing. But yeah.
That's funny. It's funny. That takes me to when I was in ministry. And I was under this pastor who, I had some great ideas of, hey, we should implement this to bring more people in. And it was brushed to the side. But there was the understanding for me that, okay, this is this person's realm. I'm a part of this person's vision. But when I got my opportunity, I was able to incorporate everything I wanted to incorporate and had a very successful ministry of young adults. But that, that's kind of letting, okay, that's their thing, and I, being okay with it, versus when I have my own, or if given the opportunity, it gets to look like what I want it to look like. So it's that. Plus, I was gonna say something funny, but I'm gonna let it go. My stubborn co-host here. But yeah, like, and those people are having those kind of experiences even in this very moment, right? Like they're having those experiences in this very moment. But it is also about, is this actually hitting, actually piggybacking off of what you're saying, is this a good fit for me? Is this place where I'm at doing things this way, is this a good fit for me? Is this relationship a good fit for me? Is this job a good fit for me? Is this opportunity a good fit for me? And even before you went into your story, the thing that came up for me is the first communication is with ourselves. Like there's room for finding out what does fit me, but having that communication with ourselves of, this is how I want this experience for me to look like. Again, relationship, job, opportunity, whatever. So that when that person, when that job, when that opportunity shows up, I can now communicate to them, well, this is what is going to bring out the best in me, or this is what fits me. Oh, it's not a good fit. Thank you. Have a good. And this is how I navigate personally. How I navigate relationships.
Well,
relationships have. Yeah, go ahead.
You're 100%. You're 100% right on that, because the thing about it also is when you also navigate life within your own authenticity. One of the things that happens is, even like, for example, with myself losing that job, I wasn't upset about it. I wasn't upset about it at all, right? Did I believe that I'm not a team player? No, I didn't believe I'm not a team player, right? I believe that ultimately that obviously I wasn't the right fit for the person who was the manager, but ultimately I was clear about my reasoning for what, like I communicated well, I did all these things,
Mhm.
I wasn't a good fit for them, and so it was okay. I didn't take it personally. But a lot of times we can't help but take it personally when a situation that's
Yeah.
not for us dissolves,
Yeah.
right? Because
Yeah.
immediately we start thinking, well, there's something about me that makes me not worthy for this opportunity, when that may not be the case. It may literally just not be the right space for you, and that's okay, right? And
Right.
the more you know yourself, the more you know the spaces that are right for you, and the more it's easier to walk away from the spaces that are not. Right now, I mean, I say this,
Absolutely.
that works well in certain situations. Listen, there's been situations in my life that walking away from spaces that were not for me wasn't that simple, but that's life, right? It's life.
It's a process. Sometimes it's a rip the band-aid off. Sometimes you got to pull it off slow. But as long as the ultimate outcome is I am releasing what does not fit me, so I can now connect with what does. Because when we talk about that relationship, that's probably the hardest thing that it is to let go of, right? Even when you know it's not a good fit. And I'm raising my hand for that.
Can you
That
just
was a,
scream
that
the
was
whole way? No, this will work. That's me.
yeah, yeah, same. And then you end up losing yourself in the process, causing nothing but chaos, for yourself and for the other person. But these are the experiences that we also have to have, because sometimes in knowing what you do want, or even knowing who you are, you have to experience who you're not, or you have to experience what's not you. So you can go, nope, this isn't me. This isn't, so you can now more specifically know who you are, right? Like there's some people who are in, abusive situations. And, I've been in a work abusive situation, been in relationships, abusive situations. And even those who, have started these great movements, um, have been in these situations where at some point they came to themselves and went, oh, hell no, I'm way better than this. I'm way better than this. But it took that experience for them to get there. So sometimes these experiences are waking us up. And so even circling back to unfulfilling success, if you have all the trappings, all the bells and whistles of what it's said to look like you're successful, but you're not feeling fulfilled, that that experience is for the purpose of pointing you to something that you're missing right now, which is what Tennille said, going within and finding all the things that you thought that would give you in yourself, because it's already there. You don't have to create it. You don't have to, search for it. You just got to look, and you'll see it there. Right.
Yeah. Now,
Yeah.
and one of the things that happens though, when you do start going within, when you do start really finding those things that the external circumstances you believe are bringing to you, you'll actually also start to find yourself making changes, right? Recognizing more so the things that aren't for you, the people that aren't for you, and slowly but surely aligning yourself. Almost automatically, it starts to happen with
Yeah.
what does actually serve you. But it's easy to talk about it. It's a lot harder to do, right?
So how do you do it? So how do you
It's
do it?
scary. It's a very scary thing. I
Yeah.
mean, the first step for me, it always comes down to mindfulness for me, right? The first
Yeah.
step is mindfulness. If you're finding yourself unfulfilled, take the time to actually reflect, right? What aspect of your life do you find unfulfilling, and why, right? Try and get to the bottom, and again, constantly questioning yourself, right? What is it
Mm.
that you're experiencing? um what is it, what's the need that is not being met, right? Why do you feel these things about yourself? And often it comes down to safety and connection, right? We want to
Mm.
feel that we belong, we want to feel that we are safe. And to be very honest, a lot of modern life doesn't give many opportunities to truly feel safe. Everything is disposable, everything is dispensable, including people, right?
Yeah.
And and worse, in this society, your value only lies within your productive years, right? Which is why a lot of people, as they get older, start to get even more fearful, because who or what who am I going to be from this point on,
Yeah.
right? And if they spent their lives basically prioritizing their careers over everything else, right? They
Hmm.
haven't taken the time to develop friendships or relationships with their children, then there's now the very
Yeah.
real possibility that they're going to enter these unproductive years where they no longer have value in society, and there's going to be nobody there, right?
Yeah.
So first getting in touch with yourself, and then thinking about the kind of connections, because connection is a big part of it, that you want
Yeah.
to um, strengthen, and then being
Hmm.
intentional. Be
Yeah.
intentional. Be intentional about the life that you want. But first know it. Realize whether or not you've been even following your own dreams. You know, there's several people that will live their whole lives following someone else's dreams. Their parents. Parents have a
Yeah.
huge influence on this, right?
Big,
So, and
humongous. Yeah.
we're talking grown, like 40, 50-year-old people that are still trying to, on some level, get their parents' approval. And sometimes their parents have even passed,
Hmm.
but they still,
Yeah.
it's this internalized need to gain their parents' approval. And therefore they've lived their whole lives without actually living it for themselves. You have to get back
Yeah.
intentional. Mindfulness, reflection, those are the two like baselines, right? That can
Mm.
start you on that journey. And then it gets easier. But it's a practice, which is why I say it's not easy. Like, you have to be intentional, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff. The only person's opinion that matters to me is Miss Yolanda Marie. I'm sorry, this is a friend on Facebook. I thought I would shout her out because I know we always support each other's stuff. But and I'm playing. But I have a question. Yesterday on a live that I did,
Mhm.
we talked about, and the topic was pursuing your purpose,
Mhm.
and we all agreed that pursuing your purpose may usurp the the relationship you're in if the relationship you're in is not supportive of your purpose.
Mhm.
So when we talk about having that, and being so caught up in what you're doing that you're neglecting some of the relationships around you, or whatever, how do we reconcile that? Do you believe that pursuing what sets my soul on fire should be higher than a relationship that's not supportive of me doing what sets my soul on
Mm, that's a tricky one. Because you need to know what your motivation is for pursuing this purpose that you speak of, right?
fire?
Because a lot of what we're driven by something, even when it comes to pursuing our paths, right? What is driving
Yeah.
it? And usually, if it is love driven, right,
Hmm.
then it really
Hmm.
can be difficult to connect with the person that you love in
Yeah.
pursuing this. You know what I mean? If it's love
Right.
driven. So it's kind of tricky on that one, because I have funny you should say that, because I literally have a client that's kind of going through that. something similar something similar, but basically for them, they're at the stage where they're trying to explore the world, but they basically doing a little bit of a go with the flow type thing. But their
Yeah.
partner is kind of like wanting a little bit more stability, right? So they kind of reach
Yeah.
that roads. Do we continue on this nomadic, you know, adventurous path together, or do we separate so you can find stability elsewhere, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and ultimately, they've kind of decided to separate, right? Um, but I think within relation, the truth about relationship is to communicate and understand each other, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and so it really shouldn't be an either or, um, because when you are connected, like truly connected with your person, not
Hmm.
only that they will share your purpose, but they will understand the value of your purpose, and
Yeah.
likely it shouldn't be a competition, so to speak. You know what I mean? Um,
Right.
it is usually because you can pursue your purpose. There's no reason for you to be not to be able to pursue your purpose and not be in a relationship at the same time. You can do both, and it often just takes support. And you may not be aligned if you find that there's too much clash in terms of that regards, right? Because then that's a situation of your partner feeling like they're not safe in the relationship if you support
Yeah.
if you pursue your purpose, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that actually speaks to a much bigger issue in the relationship itself, right? Because once
Yeah.
you're safe and secure with somebody, like nothing will shake that. You could have a person that's traveling all the time for work and still be secure in the relationship with that person. Not feeling like there's some kind of a disconnect. Because I think when it comes to particularly romantic relationships, people do set a lot
Hmm.
of unrealistic like expectations in them. Not even
Yeah.
unrealistic, but they're expectations that aren't based in like it's unique to each couple, right? So if there's a major conflict, then that might not be the right relationship. But for the most part, it really shouldn't be a conflict if you've got a strong love-based relationship.
Yeah. Love-based, healthy relationship. Because on both ends, both parties have an argument, especially say I've worked this Fortune 500 job and I've created this lifestyle for my family, but what really sets my soul on fire is being a horse farmer
Hmm.
or something where this lifestyle will probably not be this lifestyle
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
anymore. Now you have the person who married you with this, but now you're letting him or her know, hey, this is what I'm really supposed to be doing or what I'm really passionate about. And probably more times than not, it's probably going to be a separation there.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, or a reinventing themselves as a couple where somehow, some way they can be used to this new lifestyle. But both sides, both sides have a argument. Well, you didn't talk about this when we got married. Didn't talk about this when I met you, and now
I
you're
mean,
saying this is.
one of the biggest mistakes that people make, even when it comes to like the concept of marriage, is the idea that how you married the person that you married is a person you're going to still be married to for 50 years from now.
Yeah,
Even if you're still
yeah,
together, I guarantee they're not the same person, right?
no, no,
Because the
no,
one thing in life that's constant is change. And the strength of your
yeah,
relationship is your ability to adapt and change together, right? And to
yeah,
compromise and to respect each other. So even for example, like the situation that you gave, well, yeah, that will be a stressful situation, especially if you have kids. So you
yeah,
may want to
yeah,
pursue
yeah,
yeah, you may want to pursue your passion, but your life isn't really all about you anymore, right? Particularly if
yeah.
you've got kids. And that's one of the biggest things when it comes to pursuing passion. Your primary passion should be your kids. And the problem is the
Right.
problem the problem is that a lot of people then hear that and think, oh my gosh, I'm giving up my life. But it's really not about giving up your life. It's about really being present and enjoying the life that you've made and figuring out
Yeah.
how we can make this life one that aligns with your purpose and passion.
So I got a good one for you. Personal story here. So before I moved into Vegas, I lived in Delaware and had 11-year-old baby girl. She and we that was I was her heart, she was my heart. I was always back and forth to Vegas because almost everybody was here. My speaking coach, my business partner, speaking engagements were here, et cetera, et cetera. So, but I told baby girl, I said, Daddy's probably not always going to be in Delaware, but I will not move unless I get the okay from you. So it was at that time that I actually moved to Vegas that she had given me the okay and had to circle back. She's like, yeah, Daddy, I'm good. This is going on with mommy and da 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 da. Um, however, you know, actually, I'm gonna be honest with you. I was the emotional one because that was my heart. But
Mhm.
this is how I made sense of it, and I really want your opinion on this because you're right. But I just want to see how this looks, what this looks like. You're right, and our children are our priority. But one of the reasons why this made sense for me is because the lesson I want my daughter, now I have two, the lessons I want my daughters to know is to pursue your passion.
Mhm.
So my coming here wasn't just about everything being here, but it was an example to my daughter of what it looks like to pursue your passion. So at what point does it become an example for my children versus me not putting my children first?
So what you described, right, is
Uh,
very different than what some people often do. And what I mean by that is you
okay.
actually took the time to have a discussion with your daughter, right?
Okay.
Because
Okay.
sometimes choices and decisions have to be made that are will take you away from your kids, for example, right?
Yeah.
But to make those decisions without um, taking the time to consider how it impacts your kids, how it's going to impact your
Okay.
kids, is
Okay.
where the issue is. Like you may want to pursue your passion, great, right?
Yeah.
But you should be thinking about how can you pursue your passion within the context of the role that you have as a parent, right?
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that you can't leave, but it does mean that you should be considering things like how are you going to keep in touch? How are you going to do this? How are you going to make sure that they understand the importance that they have, the role that
Yeah.
they are in your life? Because I do
Yeah.
so feel the same thing. Your passion should not be above your kids. It's
That's a and that's a really that's something that's going to be debated until the cows come home, right? Because you've incarnated here for a reason. You incarnated here to fulfill some purpose
Mhm.
in your and so
But that's part of your
are we
challenge, right? Because fulfilling that purpose is not supposed to necessarily be an easy road, right? So you incarnated here, and along the line, you've made choices, and those choices will impact your ability to fulfill your purpose. And you now have to find a way to fulfill your purpose within the context of the choices and the decisions and the life that you have brought yourself up to at this point, right? And something like kids, for example, is not a thing that you just put aside so you can perform your passion. This is now a part of fulfilling your duty here.
that's that well first of all both Tennille and I are conscious parents and we talk about that and we believe in that. That's that magna cum laude talking right now. But but it is essentially, it is essentially following the path. And I agree with you 100%. Got to include, I would have never moved. Matter of fact, year after year, she would tell me, no, not a problem, sweetie. Daddy's not going anywhere. Matter of fact, I had to stop asking her, to be honest with you. But I do believe, agree with you that we got to include that. We got to consider, and actually probably saw more of each other and probably talked more when I got here than even when we were together. We spent, quite a bit of time together while I was there, but we were always on video chat. It was always, so I was always seeing her, always talking to her, and so that kind of made it make sense to that degree.
Yeah. But honestly, when
But
it comes
yeah,
to fulfillment in life, you have to understand that I think a key part of fulfillment is thinking that it's out there somewhere, right?
yeah,
Your life
yeah,
can be fulfilled right here. Because even like you're talking about, you may feel that you have some purpose. Maybe that purpose is to help people in a particular way. Well, if you aren't able to move because you've got other responsibilities right now, find a way to help people where you are, right? Like that's what it comes down to. That's what the challenge in really, if your passion is that strong, right, then
right,
you'll make it work wherever you are, right? Chasing it isn't necessary. And quite frankly, I think we have spoken to this before. A lot of the time when it comes to your purpose, you don't have to chase it. You just have to
no, yeah, no,
have to you just have
definitely
to
don't have.
you just have to move in alignment with it and it comes to you, right?
Okay,
Which means that it can come to you wherever you are. Um, just the
where
first
you are,
step is to be happy and with where you are, right? You have to
right,
have gratitude about where you are. If there's things you want to change, start moving towards making those changes. Without making these drastic things, you can. It's a process, and the doors and the lines, everything will open up and align itself. Right. But the key thing is, again, you're getting back in touch with yourself. You're not searching for something out there that's going to bring you fulfillment. The fulfillment is within
yeah.
you. And then you move in alignment with what your values are once you get back in touch with you.
I love it. I love it. I think that's also a great way to kind of end this particular episode of Going Beyond. Unless there's something you want to add to that. But that was beautifully said, actually, right there.
No,
Is there
I think
anything you want to? Okay, I
got it.
love it. I love it. And it's given me some things to think about. Even though I've made decisions, I'm at a place where unless we've talked about this, unless this person or less this thing or this place fits my purpose, it can't stay. I got to release it, and only make room for those people, those things, those places that do fit my purpose. Um, so yeah, but still, even with this conversation, it's giving me some things to think about. All right. So Chasen says the fulfillment is within you. Yes. Tennille has been saying that from the beginning of our session today, actually. I'm in 1000% agreement with her. So having said that, I'm not sure what we're going to, we got a list of things. I'm not sure what's on the list for next week. But we will see you all again on Tuesday. It is Tuesday, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Look, both,
Both of
both of
us.
us. So we will see you all on Tuesday, next Tuesday, same time. We love and appreciate you, and we will see you then. Bye bye.
Bye.